Let's talk about the 3 activities that I want all of you to start executing. Number 1, reels. Reels, 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 reels. You cannot be posting enough reels right now. I want at minimum 1 reel a day. I know that sounds like a lot. And guys, I myself am holding myself accountable. I need to be doing more reels. But know that it doesn't just have to be you always in the reel. So if you can repost someone else's reel, always give them credit, tag them. That's a great strategy to do. In fact, that's the third bullet point that I was going to go over after I talk about reels in number 2. But anytime you can share, maybe it's a financial advisor, maybe it's a life insurance agent, a divorce attorney, a real estate agent. I call that curated content. Those of you who are doing the Wednesday host your show day, where you're creating content by doing interviews and you're proactively reaching out to other leaders in your community, that can be shortened into micro clips as possible reels. So there's plenty of ways to create more content in that short form video format. So again, remember, that's when you have your phone and you're holding it vertically. And if you're someone that does it via your webcam, like this is done via Zoom right now, make sure you are way zoomed out, because the moment you go to cut it to put it on your reel, it's vertical. So you're going to end up looking like this big as soon as it's cropped. So double down on reels. You got to do them. Use this email, have your team, leverage your team, showcase. When I put on here Thursday and Friday examples of ways to include the team to show your personality, you've got to be doing a reel a day. You have to. No excuses. If you want to grow on Instagram, you've got to sandwich that in between the graph and the charts that we're doing. Remember, those graphics that we create are for the screenshotable and shareable content that, again, shows consistency and reminds people that not everyone learns the same way, and not everyone's going to want to watch a video every single time. But for the cheapest form of reach and opportunity without spending $1 on ads is going to be reels. Commit to that. Number 2, stories. You have got to share your reels to your story. Don't save the reel to your camera roll, then go to your story and upload it as a story. I want you to share the reel to your story, because that's going to help with views. I need y'all to double down on story creation, at least 4 to 5 stories a day. And stories are meant for creating conversations. So a good rule of thumb is about 10% of your audience will see your story. And it's usually followers that are already following you, unlike reels. Reels gives a little bit more exposure for possible new connections. But the more connections you have lead to more conversations. The more conversations you're having, the more conversion you're going to have. So you need to be posting 4 to 5 stories, space them out in the day. Don't do a story bomb where you post a whole bunch back to back. I really encourage people, the first story of the day needs to be with a poll or the sticker feature where you're asking people a question. The example that I always use is if you're in the morning, and it doesn't always have to be you. Okay, there's no strategy to stories. Stories are just meant to build connection and to create conversation, because people will sometimes message you just based off the story. And remember, the story surfing, people will click on a story and they just get lost in story land, and then they get off the app, and then they go back, and then they'll maybe click a reel, and then they're stuck in the reel land, and then they get off the app. If you ever watch someone's behavior of how they're on Instagram, that's what we're seeing. So double down on reels, a reel a day, double down on stories, 4 to 5 stories a day. Always share your post to your story, always. So again, you could do behind the scenes type images. It could be stuff of what you eat. Remember, stories only last for 24 hours. It's not like on your news feed. So there's no strategy to it. It's reminding people kind of what you do, and it's to build connections that lead to conversations where people will interact. So then you can have more conversion that goes down in the DM. And then the last one is what I had talked about with that curated content, sharing other people's content on your feed while giving them credit, tagging them. You could tag them. So if you've ever noticed on Instagram now, when you click tag, you'll see on the left, it'll say tag, and on the right, it'll say invite collaborator or tag collaborator. You can only have 1 collaborator per post. So just know that. But that is how, if you've ever seen that I've made Instagram post, which if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, make sure you're following me, plug-and-play_SM. But you'll see sometimes in the post, it'll say plug and play SM and Deborah A. Byrd. That's because I was invited as a collaborator. And when someone gets that notification, it goes to their DM. It says Deborah Byrd has invited you as a collaborator for this post, click review. You're going to review it and they click accept. When they click accept, it now shows on both of y'all's news feeds. Whereas before there's the news feed and then there's like the tagging feed where if you click the tag feed, you can see kind of who all's tagged you and everything. Nobody ever goes there and looks. So you want to be where you're leveraging their database and their trust and their social feed in a non-obvious way. Like it doesn't want to be to sell, but if you're promoting a service, maybe it's, an appraiser that is unbelievable or a contractor that you just had an experience with, or even a client of yours who owns their own business. Maybe they own a restaurant or they're a neurologist, whatever it may be. Look for ways to curate other people's content, which also breaks up your Instagram feed from it looking too corporate. Because remember, I personally don't like to see 2 or 3 branded posts in a row, which is why it's okay. Like when you go live or when you do a reel and it's not professionally edited with your branding wrapped all around, that's okay, because you want your feed to come across that it's you and that it's a human. So it's okay to have the imperfect side, like maybe you screw up on words, that's real. And people actually fall in love with the imperfections and they will interact more when they know that it's you doing the posting. And the way to accomplish that is, again, when someone lands on your feed on Instagram and they scroll for a couple feet, because remember, it usually starts with a word of mouth referral. They're going to research you a little bit. They're going to go to Instagram. They're going to land on your feed and they're going to scroll for a couple feet. And overall, they're going to make a judgment. And the 2 judgments that they usually make on your brand is warmth and competency. So we can help solve the competency. We're going to position you. We're going to have up-to-date relevant graphs. You're never going to have the cookie cutter type, posts that other agencies may do. And your captions, the way we write them is to be very conversational, where it makes people wonder, these graphics are pretty good. I wonder, could this be him or her actually doing it? Because the way that the captions are written with the amount of knowledge that we have just in the mortgage and real estate space, it leaves people guessing where they really don't know if it's you or if you've hired somebody because it's that good. That's great. But we've got to intersect those posts, especially on Instagram and Facebook and other platforms, to solve the problem where, yes, not all learners are the same. Some want the graphs. We need the shareable content in a mixture so that it's diversified with your reels. But if you want to grow on Instagram, the only way to do that right now is by doing at least 1 reel a day, 4 to 5 stories, and doing your part on the engagement. Engagement meaning every morning you spend 15 minutes out of your prospect time to proactively like other posts on other accounts, to comment on other key prospect accounts, to story comment so that you're going into the DMs. You cannot expect something in return that you're not willing to 10 times give yourself. So remember that. Yes, this is social proof and brand awareness, but I have clients that say, I really want to grow and should I pay for ads? You don't have to pay for ads. I posted a reel and I got 100,000 views, guys, and I didn't pay a single penny. Now, it was a funny one. And remember, anytime you have a meme, like memes are great to post because they're very relatable, and it allows people that when they go on social, they are going on social to escape from life. They don't want to think too hard. It's a mindless, you're going through, your intent is not really always to learn. And that's why we've seen that the memes or anything inspirational is the most shared content on the market. But reels is where the demand is. And it's also the only way that Instagram can really judge your account. So you can hide, like people can be looking at your account and stealing your content, because yes, I see that too. And they may not always like, follow, or comment, right? We've seen a huge decrease in that since 2019, just because humans have gotten a little bit lazier when it comes to commenting and liking and doing that part on social, but they can't hide from a view. And as long as they're looking at something for at least 3 seconds, then we know that they're watching, and so does Instagram. So they reward people who create content where you get that watch time. Couple things about reels. I've been noticing a trend, and this is really hard to do if you're doing an educational reel. So remember, the reel algorithm just changed recently where they're allowing reels to be as long as 3 minutes. But I'll tell you, most people fall off at about that 5 to 7 or 5 to 13 second mark. So your hook on the reel is the most important part. That is your bait on the where you're watching the bobber. And if you want to try to hook that fish, you've got to have a hook that is aligning with what your ideal audience wants or they think that they want, not necessarily what they need, but it's, and I have a post that I've shared before that is different types of hooks that you could use, like number one mistake I see first time home buyers make, or the top 3 challenges in today's market, something that would make people say, click, and they're going to watch. But guys, every 2 to 3 seconds of your reel, you're constantly reselling that airtime for their attention. And attention is expensive because people's attention span is about the same size as a flea. So your relevancy, like you've got to be relevant, you've got to be fast paced, almost so fast that people have to kind of rewatch it. Because even like right now, if you're just talking like this in front of a camera for this long, you guys are probably already mentally distracted because you're used to doing 500 things at once and there's not enough engagement going on. And when people are on social and they're scrolling, you've got to be maybe changing the position, having different things come in on the screen. That's what I mean by fast pace. So you got to have a good hook. You've got to have a clear, concise, and short message that, again, is to the point, and then call to action. My favorite call to action right now has been, follow at Win by Noon or follow Modern Mortgage Summit, whatever it is. Because most of the time, if people are seeing your reels, they're probably not already following you, and we want them to follow you so then they can see more of your content. Other examples of call to action could be like this post if you agree, or respond with, the emoji that fits in the comments below. Those are different types of call to actions that you could use. So I hope this was helpful. I want to see you executing in these next couple of months. Again, the 3 activities that you need to double down on right now: more stories, 4 to 5 a day, space them out. The first story of the day should be a question or interactive story. You need to do at least 1 reel a day. If you could do 2, that would be even better. And remember, when you do a reel, you sharing it to your story is going to count for one of your story posts. And then curated content. What content can you share from other accounts that's winning that would help you win and grow too?